Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Wimlu. You are listening to the Raptors Reaction Podcast, which is a presentation of the ToonieBet online sportsbook and casino. Raptors lose today, 127 to 116 against Detroit. Honestly, very impressive performance by Detroit, who continue to be excellent. Even in the absence of Cade Cunningham, they pushed OKC to the brink. They really should have won last night as well, but they ultimately ended up losing in overtime. They get back super late. I think they got back. I think the broadcast said they got back to their homes around probably 4, maybe 4:30 in the morning. Meanwhile, the Raptors obviously had the day off, so they actually had the rest advantage going into this game. But you could never really tell based on how this game started because Detroit and their physicality and their principles and just what they do on a night-to-night basis was so impressive. And you knew the Raptors were in trouble when they started the game 0-for-11 from the field. They didn't get their first bucket until 4 minutes and 51 seconds left in the first quarter. RJ had a steal and took it the whole way for a layup. That was literally the Raptors' first bucket. The Raptors got some free throws before that. They split a whole pair of them. It's actually kind of funny that the Raptors' first 3 possessions of scoring were all ones. Like 1 for 2 from the foul line, 1 for the 2 from the foul line, a technical foul. But yeah, like straight up, the Raptors got bullied from the jump. And I think the Pistons are so impressive with sort of how much they push you around, how much they're challenging the referees. I mean, this is a Tony Brothers-led crew today. I mean, he's one of the veteran officials in the league. Obviously, everyone knows who Tony Brothers is. And even he had to dish out a bunch of texts because everybody was on him. But it was that type of game. And I think, honestly, especially in today's NBA, there's a lot of things you need to do effectively, like how you rotate, how you battle, how smart you are, But ultimately, I do think that one of the hacks of playing elite basketball on the defensive end is to play with that sort of like frenetic physicality where you're basically slapping and grabbing every single time down. You're holding, you're pushing, you're getting away with so much that it's like the referees can't possibly foul everybody out. So they don't. And so it works in your favor. And like, I think a lot of times people get annoyed at, OKC. I think Lou Dort, even Alex Caruso get a lot of this in terms of just like how come they're allowed to hold and grab and whatever. But that's just how you play great defense in the NBA nowadays. Like if you're able to again do all the basics, be really smart, but also at the same time be a level of physicality that like the referee can't call, then the game just kind of starts to work in your favor. The old Miami Heat teams were like this as well. Even the old Raptors teams to some degree were like this. But I think the Pistons are another level. To be honest, they have stronger athletes too. And yeah, they just get after you, man. Like I honestly, like I'm not even saying this like I'm trying to complain about it. I think I'm actually in admiration of it. I wish the Raptors could execute like this because again, you could not tell which team was on the second half of back-to-back. The Pistons played hard as hell all night. They led the entire way. The Raptors occasionally battled back to make it like a 2-point game or a 4-point game. Every single time they did, the Pistons responded. I think credit to the Pistons. One thing that's a little questionable for them is their three-point shooting. But tonight, a lot of their three-point shots went in and at a very timely position for them. They hit 13 of 23 from the three-point line. So obviously that's not a high volume, but some of the ones that they made were heavily contested. Duncan Robinson just absolutely killed them. Daniss Jenkins with a buzzer beater at the end there. And the Pistons, they're pretty smart too. Like in terms of offensively, okay, they know they got to play together as a team. They don't have Cade to generate most of the offense for them. But even with Cade, I think they do this too. But they run a lot of pick and rolls. They force you to see that you switch or not. Again, that physicality also applies on the offensive end. Everybody on the Pistons knows how to set a really hard physical screen. So you're either having to be late to their shooters, and they got a lot of shooters. Kevin Huerter, they got Duncan Robinson, guys you need to like lock and trail on. And they're setting such physical screens where they're grabbing you, holding you, moving and bumping, and like again, like the referees aren't going to call 20 moving screens in a game. Every single person on that team screens so well, and they force you to say, okay, if you're going to try to cover over the top, are you going to switch? Are you going to send 2, or are you going to live with an open 3? And obviously the Pistons tonight were banging the threes in, so the Raptors were really trying to not give those up. At times they were switching, but then of course when the Raptors got to switching a lot in the second half, the Pistons adjusted, and they had lots of plays where they threw high-low passes, where they had big players, being fronted by small players on the Raptors, and they were throwing precise passes over the top, and they were finishing around the basket. Jalen Duren was just absolutely eating Jakob Poeltl's lunch. I know in that last game, Jakob had probably his best game of the year against the Pistons when the Raptors beat the Pistons back in Toronto in February. Well, guess what? Jalen Duren came back and thoroughly won that matchup. I mean, just took it strong the whole time. He's been excellent. I mean, he's showing why he's been an all-star this year. And yeah, just overall, like they got tough, timely scoring. They got really tough ball handling as well. That's something that, again, you watch a game like this, the Raptors trying to be physical and be aggressive back on the Pistons. But man, I got to credit Daniss Jenkins. I mean, first off, this is one of their two ways that they converted, right? So this will be the equivalent of like, AJ Lawson or Elijah Martin or Chucky Hepburn, from this year being like a key cog in what they do. He's in the starting lineup now, filling in for Cade. He looked great. So physically tough, pushing the pace, just annoying you, understanding how to get a foul call, frustrating the Raptors, that timely block on Jamal Shead at the end there too. And yeah, just like his ability to absorb like all the ball pressure from Toronto, not turn it over, is a very, very key skill in a game like this, because the Raptors are trying with Jamal and with Jacoby. They're two best on-ball pressure defenders on the perimeter, I guess, aside from Scottie. But, like, Scottie's got to guard elsewhere. They're trying to, pressure as much as possible, steal the ball. And he was just like, no problem, I got this. And I'll put you guys in foul trouble. I'll put you guys in bad positions. I'll dribble it long enough to, like, get around pick and rolls and see how you guys switch, and I'll deliver the passes. Like, I just thought he was excellent. And this is not a rarity for him. Like, Jenkins plays like this a lot for the Pistons. Of course, that little bit of like crossover pull-up three at the end of the first half was also huge. That put the Pistons up 5 going to halftime instead of just 2 points. Raptors had some momentum in that second quarter, coming back a little bit. And then, yeah, of course, in that third quarter, they just completely broke it open. Usually the third quarter is when the Raptors take over, but I thought the Pistons absolutely took over in that stretch. And yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, it wasn't the best defensive game by the Raptors, giving up 127 to them, and 60% shooting for the Pistons, and allowing them to go to the foul line 30 times is pretty bad. Like, just genuinely pretty bad. They had 32 assists as well. The Pistons did. The Pistons literally hit everything across the board. Wow, they shot 60% from the field, 56% from 3, and they went 26 of 30 from the foul line, which is 87%. They just did an incredible job. And I think the Raptors at least got a couple turnovers off the Pistons in the first half with their pressuring. Second half, the Pistons took better job of taking care of the ball, and that's when they created that separation. Raptors offense was also kind of weird and gummy. A lot of points, Scottie obviously recently, but unfortunately Scottie did only 5 points. I mean, look, if we're going to be fair, talk about what Paolo did with 3 of 14 shooting. Well, 2 of 8 shooting for 5 points is pretty nasty for Scott as well. Now, Scottie did have some nice passes, certainly a couple of really, really nice no-looks. Probably see one of the highlights going around, which is the one where he did the no-look, and it was so nice that he kind of even impressed himself. Those were good. I'm not saying he wasn't good on that front, but only 1 rebound for Scottie as well. And even on the defensive end, you never necessarily felt like he was dominating the game on the defensive end the typical way that you would expect him to. I know he had 3 steals and 2 blocks, which is a lot. Trust me, that's very impressive. But it certainly wasn't like the Pistons were unable to score. Again, they had 127 points. I do think that one of the fastest with Scottie having the ball so much is that, like, typically you put the ball in someone's hands, they're going to score more, right? Because they touch the ball more and they're involved in more actions and whatever. But Scottie, in a weird way, if he's always bringing the ball up, coming down the floor, he's not really getting himself into the good spots where he's scoring. And he's not the type of playmaker where I'm going to keep scoring on you, force a double team, and then I'm going to pass. He's going to look for the pass first and foremost. And so what I mean is, like, if you look back at the Orlando game, for example, I mean, first off, that game was a lot in transition, which certainly, it's easier to score. The Pistons did a better job of, especially in the second half, protecting the ball. But I also thought that, like, okay, the moments where Scottie gets the ball in the post against a mismatch and he plays off of that, or he's able to get to his turnaround jumper, or he's able to get to the basket and play a little bully ball. I mean, outside of that, like, one dunk that he had in the third quarter where he took it strong and he just, like, decided to just basically take no prisoners and play Giannis ball, and he dunked it, which was great, and basically pushed against and overwhelmed the Pistons' physicality. Typically speaking, the defense was behind him the entire time. He didn't really get by his man, and it felt like it took him a lot of energy to get into his spots. His passing started also getting a little wayward in the second half. He had a couple turnovers that really contributed to the Raptors again starting to struggle on that side. So, I mean, look, as much as we've been enthusiastic about the point Scottie thing, I do think that like there might be different ways to sort of get to it. It also was kind of weird in this game. Like, I mean, I thought Brandon Ingram had a very weird game. In the first half, he was really struggling offensively, couldn't really get to his spots. Also, when Scottie operating in the middle of the floor there, it felt like Brandon was just kind of off to the wing. Didn't really touch the ball that much. When he did touch the ball, again, the Pistons got to him with the physicality. Again, the weird thing is the last time the Raptors beat the Pistons, Brandon was actually awesome in that game. He had like 36 points, right? And a lot of the offense was geared around, okay, how do we have Brandon with the ball? We'll bring him into pick and rolls. We'll get him into sort of mismatch basketball where he's attacking Duncan Robinson, where he's attacking Kevin Huerter, where he's attacking Jenkins. They didn't really allow them to do that this much. Like the Pistons changed up the game plan. They trapped, they swarmed. And the Raptors also just didn't give Brandon the ball as much. There is an opportunity cost. But, if you're putting the ball in Scottie's hands, that means the ball's not in Brandon's hands, which is fine. Again, like, because, that's a decision I supported going into this game as well, considering how well Scottie's been playing. Plus, Brandon's been out. But Brandon had a really slow first half. And I also thought that, like, on the defensive end, he was just a little bit late on a couple plays, like a little bit late on a Daniss Jenkins 3, a little bit late on a Duncan Robinson 3. He had to foul Tobias Harris driving against him, because he got beat off the dribble. There were small moments like that where I just felt like Brandon was losing the physicality battle on both offense and defense. Now, granted, to his credit, he finished with 22 points, and it wasn't even inefficient. I mean, he was 7 of 15 from the field, 7 of 8 from the foul line. Really, he couldn't get the 3-ball to drop tonight. But, like, whatever. Like, 1 of 6 from the 3-point line is not great. But 22 points on 7 of 15 shooting is pretty good. And I will credit Brandon because in the second half, he was able to really turn it on that third quarter, get to his spots, be more aggressive. The Pistons were also kind of, like, changed up a little bit. They were like, okay, we're maybe not going to send him as much help because he was quite quiet in the first half. And so second half, they weren't as aggressive. He picked his game up. And he was able to get to the foul line. He was able to get to this mid-range game. And again, people know how Brandon scores. But, I just felt like there wasn't anything else going on there. Like the only one rebound from him as well. No assists from Brandon. No steals, no blocks. It's basically just 22 points flat, right? And so, that was a bit of an awkward game. RJ actually was the one kind of not carrying the offense because, again, the Raptors started 0 of 11 from the field. But RJ was the one who was getting downhill, getting fouled, playing through the contact, a really tough and one around Jalen Duren at one point as well, getting out in transition, even play a little bit of that pick and roll game. But just, his physicality and his ability to just sort of like be a constant downhill pressure, I felt like that really helped. But also at times it felt like, okay, he got hot in the first half, but then in the second half, he couldn't really sustain it. So, like, it's kind of like one guy was on and then one guy was off. Like there wasn't too much synergy between what Brandon was doing, what RJ was doing, what Scottie was, doing. And Scottie obviously wasn't scoring much either. So, it became a really muddled kind of product. Occasionally if they could find Yak around the basket, he was, putting in a couple of layups and stuff like that. That's good. But, I mean, ultimately, it just felt like the Raptors were pretty disconnected as a group. And it really wasn't until the fourth quarter where, it was like a 20-point lead for Detroit. So maybe they took their foot off the gas pedal a little bit. But the fourth quarter grouping, which, was a bit of a surprise, I must add. But, like, it was Jamal, Jacoby, AJ Lawson, CMB, and Mamu. The 5 of those guys actually managed to launch a 12-0 run. And they kept that going for a little bit. Now, granted, they were coming back from so big of a deficit that they couldn't even cut it down to under 10 points. But, like, those guys actually gave them some real life. I thought Jamal, even having a really tough first half and definitely a tough third quarter, turned it on the fourth quarter. Actually, no, that's not true. I think Jamal had a good first quarter, bad second quarter, really bad third quarter, but then a much better fourth quarter. So, on the whole, he played okay. But I thought he did a good job, setting the pace, like pushing the tempo, setting guys up in the corner. Shout out to AJ Lawson. Unfortunately for the Raptors 905, they actually lost in the playoffs today. So they're actually out. They're eliminated. Their season is abruptly over because the G League playoffs are literally one and done, like NCAA style, until the finals at least. But the 905 actually lost to the Motor City Cruise. So the Raptors lost to the Pistons, and the Raptors 905 lost to the Pistons G League team. So literally the Pistons did a double over the Raptors organization today. But the Pistons, they, I don't know, I guess they did leave the Raptors open from three quite a lot, and the Raptors just really couldn't hit. But credit to AJ for banging in 2 corner threes. Credit to CMB, who I thought played excellent all night. A lot of times I wanted him in the game over Jakob. He had 7 offensive rebounds, which is massive, although I think 4 of them came on the same play where he just couldn't tip the ball in. But he was great rolling to the basket, even driving the ball once in a while. Playing defense too, like he was springy, he was active. I know he's been out the last couple of games with back spasms, basically out a week. So hopefully he's able to just stay healthy in the rotation. It's been a lot of things, the finger, the back. He's just missed time for like 4 or 5 different reasons this season. If he's just able to stay in and stay consistent, he is already such an impressive player. And in these games where the physicality like elevates, you could definitely see how CMB just thrives in that, right? How active he is on the defensive end, his quickness, his ability to rotate, his work on the glass, the fact that he could switch and, contest and block 3-point shots, contain Daniss Jenkins off the dribble, who was giving the Raptors fits all night. And he can also contest shots at the basket, and he can play a little bully ball on the other end. Like, I don't know. I just continue to be really impressed with CMB. And of course, CMB and Mamu have played really well together all season. And those two were like kind of the unsung heroes. In fact, those two were actually positives off the bench, along with AJ Lawson, who had 13 points as a plus 16. The Raptors starters basically got worked, but the Raptors second unit actually made it close. Now, granted, it was a run at the end of the game. The context of it is the Pistons basically had the game won, plus they're tired. They just played a back-to-back against OKC, and again, they lost in OT. But still, that's a very impressive, performance, even though it was a loss. But yeah, I don't know. I did like what the second unit guys did, and they moved the ball around. It was harder for the Pistons to trap and be physical on the ball. There was more cutting, more movement, and it also helps when guys are able to knock down some threes. I'm talking about Mamu hitting a 3 at the top there. I'm talking about AJ in the corner. And yeah, that group had a little bit going. Unfortunately, Jacoby ended up fouling out because, again, he just kept, pressuring Jenkins, and Jenkins just kept playing through that physicality and that pressure, and that's a very impressive thing by their backup point guard. But unfortunately, Jacoby fouled out, and at that point, it's like, okay, Grady comes in. The Pistons made a tough 3. Duncan Robinson was just knocking some really, really tough ones in, and ultimately the Raptors just couldn't ever climb that hill. And of course, they were trapped under that mountain in the first place because they started 0 of 11 from the field. And yeah, I don't know. Like it's tough. To be fair, like I think this is just kind of how playoff basketball is gonna be, right? And the challenge for the Raptors is it's weird, but we're in this was game 75 of the season, right? There's only like 7 more games left on the year. Game 75 of the season, we're still trying to figure out how this team plays, especially on the offensive end. Now that, Brandon came back in the lineup, now it's like his turn, Scottie's turn, a little bit of RJ's turn, and then Jamal's kind of struggling a little bit off the bench, but then when he's on, he could really make a big impact. It's a little, I don't know. It's a little bit shaky, I would say, in terms of just like how the whole cohesion of the group was. But to be fair, like, this was a game that I kind of expected the Raptors to struggle in any way. They struggle against these physical teams. This is nothing new for them all year. And if anything, I just came away really impressed by the Pistons because, like, they kept mentioning this stat on the broadcast. I think they're now like 12-2, maybe 13-2 in the second half of back-to-backs. Like, that's incredible. And that speaks to how hard they play, how together they are. You would have never known without looking at the calendar that Detroit had played last night in an overtime game, lost, and traveled, and got in super late versus the Raptors, who had plenty of time to go to Detroit, get ready for this game, get prepared, and it was still the Pistons who played with more energy all night. That's a credit to the Pistons. Their mentality, their focus, their physicality, their toughness as a group, it's hard to shake. And the fact that they did this without Cade, and the fact that they've been doing this without Cade, I think, again, they're 11-4 now without Cade. So impressive. So they're first in the East for a reason, and they showed it tonight. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to get to your questions. on the other side. But first, let's hear from one of our beloved sponsors.
This segment is brought to you by Table Fare and Social. Get your pregame bites and after-work drinks at Table.
It's a great location, right across the street from the arena and just steps away from Union Station and the Metrolinx bus terminal.
Will, you know I love my wedge salad, but there's plenty of options at Table. What should we have next?
Oh, we could have salad for days, my friend.
Oh, you're talking about salad days? You know I love salad days, man. They got a different salad for every day of the week. You can never get tired of the options there.
Oh yeah, I heard about this place. This was your go-to lunch spot forever. You always said the lettuce was so crispy.
Man, it's so crispy and fresh, and now this can be your go-to meal before Raptors games.
I like that. Grab a pregame salad at Table Fare and Social right across from the arena. Okay, guys, we're going to take your questions. I see everyone's crashing out. Not me, though. Not me, because to be fair, I had the Jays game on the big screen. Jays bounce back from their loss to Colorado yesterday with a 5-1 win today. Jeff Hoffman shuts the door, 5-1, and a nice little rally by the Jays, walking in a run, slapping a single. Ernie with a little insurance run at the end there, too. Just a nice little push by the Jays. And I don't know. I was actually also really keeping an eye on Canada versus Tunisia. It's a friendly, but I saw a lot of fighting in that game. But that's going on at BMO Field right now. And that looked quite good. Canada looked on the precipice of maybe going up 1-0. Can someone please update me on the score there? But yeah, like that. There was a lot of good sports on tonight. And Raps unfortunately were kind of third. Not gonna lie to you, in my priorities. But anyway, we'll take your questions. So, Karem, also, hey, first off, huge congrats to Karem and the entire nation of Turkey, going back to the World Cup for the first time, I believe, in 24 years, with the 1-0 win over Kosovo. Something that, unfortunately, to all the Italians out there, I'm sorry to all of Woodbridge, you will not be in attendance for the World Cup to see your country once again, third straight World Cup cycle without Italy. It's a great shame, but Italy picks up the red card, goes 1-1, goes into penalties. Donnarumma's in net with his gigantic frame, and he's nowhere close to saving any of the penalties. But it wasn't even his fault when two of his players, one hits the crossbar and the other one sails it, way over the bar. So, congrats to the Bosnians, congrats to my head producer, Amo Delic. But very, very sad day for the Italians. They were so close to qualifying for the World Cup, and everybody except for Sandro Tonali, you should be ashamed. So anyway, okay, let's get to your questions. Shout out to the bench. I'm glad CMB is feeling better, man. CMB, like I just please stay healthy, please be in the lineup. I love watching you play, love watching CMB play. Again, his toughness, his physicality, his aggressiveness, his rotations, him and Scottie as a combination defensively. I thought there was a period in this game where the Raptors kept switching in the third quarter, and I was like, okay, Pistons play a lot of pick and roll. If you want to switch to keep the ball in front, that's okay, but of course you risk sort of the lob back door. I was like, well, if you want to do all the switching and the Pistons keep going back door, why not go bigger, right? You have Mamu, you have CMB, you have Scottie, you have BI, you have RJ. If you do a lineup like that and you switch everything, obviously there's still, certain matchups, like if Duran's in the post against, let's say, RJ, you probably still want to send a little help. But, like, you have the personnel to actually go essentially, like, 5 bigs, like Vision 6'9". You could have actually done it. In any case, like, CMB is kind of one of those players that you would love to sort of be able to play, you can kind of play any style with him because he kind of does, a lot of, he's just so versatile. That's all. But, yeah, it's fun watching him play. And I missed CMB. We got 5 New Zealand bucks from Lachlan Douglas. Not mad with the L. I think there are many positives in this game. AJ and CMB. Can we really justify paying Dick? I think he should go and we should sign Martin and AJ. Yeah, I mean, honestly, AJ, it's been really nice watching AJ the last couple games. I think a couple of things. Today, the Raptors apparently sent like the full team to Detroit. But they, according to Michael Grange, they put both Trace Jackson Davis and Elijah Martin on essentially like a car service. So basically they put them in a Sprinter van and drove him from Detroit to Mississauga to play in the G League game. Unfortunately, again, no, those two guys were not able to get the win and keep the Raptors 905 playoffs alive. So it's literally one and done for them. But I think that's kind of like, pretty notable, right? Because they did choose to keep going with AJ Lawson. So, I think AJ, he's been probably the best 905 player all season. I think at times Elijah's sort of reached that level. He's a different player. I think honestly Chucky started the season really well as well before he hurt his knee. Unfortunately, he's not going to be able to close out the year with them either. But I don't know. AJ, he's been playing defense for them. He's hitting the threes. I think that's one of the things where last year I felt like he was kind of like ran hot and cold. Like he did get extended run last year. And he could hit the three a little bit, but also he would, he was like a little bit more because like he's like in the lower 30s. But again, like what are we even talking about? Like Grady's also in the lower 30s, right? So, I think that it's just a very resilient and professional season all around by AJ because you got to remember, like last year, going into this season, training camp, like he was the one that was cut. And if it wasn't for Alwar Shamshay, coming up with some sort of health anomaly that, again, still is, yet to be discussed, they wouldn't have brought AJ back on a two-way. And when you think about it, going from a standard contract to a two-way is actually a demotion. Standard contract, you're probably making like $600K a year. Two-way contract, you don't make that. You probably make like 150, maybe 200. And so he's taking a demotion. But again, he's taken it all in stride. He's played all out for 905 all season. And of course, now late in the year when he's been called up because there's been some injuries, he's playing ahead of Grady, which I think is like one of the ultimate wake up calls. Like if you're Grady, you're like, dude, I was a first round pick and now I'm playing behind two ways. But that's just how it goes. That's just how it goes, And I think for AJ, I just commend him for taking the opportunity over and over again. So Lawson needs to be converted. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the things. It's like if you actually feel like AJ is your 11th best player, let's say, okay. Well, if you go into a postseason setting, if you don't convert these guys, the two ways are not eligible to play for you in the postseason. I don't know how it works in a play-in game. That's like really fine details in the CBA. I guess I might have to look into that, but. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think AJ is really, again, he's filled in really nicely here. And, the Raps, I guess, they got to make some choices, man. I mean, Markelle, I know they signed him on a 10-day. I think Grange said, like, unlikely he comes back on the 10-day, or it's not guaranteed he comes back on the 10-day. But I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see on all of that. But, yes, if the Raptors want to sign AJ, he's right there, right? And, of course, how much the kid from Brampton wants to stay around. Fake comeback classic. Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to put these guys down. I actually admired that they kept playing hard, even though the game was pretty much lost. So, yeah. Horrible shooting night until the fake comeback. Pistons were over 60 from three most of the game. Whole Raptors were around 20%. Yeah, that's always one of the big things with the Raps, right? Like, B.I. couldn't knock it down from the outside. RJ was really off from the outside. Scottie tried it in the corner one time, couldn't knock it down. Yak obviously not shooting much either. It just... I don't know. There wasn't. I mean, Jacoby wasn't really hitting much either. To be fair, he didn't even get open that much. And then I think the really impressive thing for the Pistons side was just like the toughness of shots they were making. I mean, one way to say it is like they were able to convert pretty contested ones, and the Raptors were unfortunately missing open ones. I'm not trying to be Darko up here, being like they made shots and we missed them. It's not a make or miss league. It's also about the talent of shooters, especially when you're talking about Kevin Huerter and Duncan Robinson. But you got the Huerter one where he banked it in off the top of the backboard from the corner. It's basically impossible geometrically to do that. Some of the Duncan Robinson threes are absurd. And even the Jenkins crossover pull-up three at the end there. I mean, yeah, that's the level of like shot creating talent that I felt like the Raptors. Like, I don't feel like we have guys that can make tough jumpers except for Brandon, and Brandon mostly makes tough mid-range jumpers. Like nobody could really make jumpers. And I think more than anything else, the Pistons ball movement and how tough they were on the ball, and how tough Duren was inside, that was more the issue more than anything else. The threes hurt, but they didn't even take that many threes. Yeah, Jenkins, another one of those quick twitchy guards, I like TJ McConnell and Ish Smith, that the franchise is always burned by. Yeah, that's a really good call. Because I've been watching a lot of Pistons, and anyone who's watched Pistons this year has noticed Jenkins. Not a big name whatsoever. But like, yeah, he's a problem, man. He like buzzes around. He pressures the defense. He's smart. He's able to hit, a couple pull-up jumpers, some pull-up threes, but realistically it's the quickness and speed. He's also just a feisty, fiery character. Like I like my point guards with like almost that level, like unreasonable drive and sort of like spunk, and like, yeah, he's got that little nasty factor. Like Jamal kind of took it to him a couple plays and then he swatted the hell out of Jamal going back the other way, and he picked up a tech and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I like him, man. He's been really tough. He's played great all year. Like honestly, I don't want to be rude, but I think he will start on the Raps. I'd rather have Jenkins than Shed. I mean, yeah, he certainly outplayed Jamal Shed today. I don't know what else to say. He is better than Jamal Shed. Should have went to the bench in the third quarter when no one else can hit a shot. Actually, one thing I was noticing about the third quarter was like, so the Raps called an early timeout because the Pistons were like building like a double-digit lead or whatever. And then I noticed, I was like, yo, the Raps have 3 timeouts left, and there's like probably 20 minutes left to go in this game. Like, that is just bad. That is just bad all the way around. So, yeah, I don't know. It was that type of night though. Raps were fighting uphill the whole time. So, what else we got? Why didn't the starters get subbed in when the game was in reach? Because the starters suck tonight, man. I don't know. Honestly, I support keeping the group that's rolling and letting them earn their chance to close. Because they did tonight. They played better. They played faster. They moved the ball better. And they handled Detroit's physicality better, to be fair, than the Raps did in that moment. So, do I think Ingram's decision-making speed is good enough in modern basketball? Yeah, this is a really good question, Chrissy. This is a very good question. So, Ingram, his game is certainly a little bit of a blast from the past. Like, I think, in the early 2000s, Brandon Ingram would have looked right in line with most of the other stars around that time. Guys who really like to take their time, can hit tough shots, tough jumpers, possession after possession. This is kind of how a lot of two guards played in that era. And of course, part of this is not a surprise when you consider that like BI is one of these Kobe disciples. And obviously Kobe's like the prime example of that style of play in the early 2000s. But I think the difficult thing with Brandon for me isn't necessarily even his processing speed for the playmaking. Cause like at a certain degree, like, okay, yeah, like I would love to see maybe a quicker pass here or there, maybe a more accurate pass, or, even going into a possession thinking I'm going to pass. But I think Brandon is kind of like, he's a walking bucket, and that's kind of how he's approaching it. And that's fine with me, actually. I'm actually totally fine with him just like trying to score first and second priorities. The issue is, I feel like he's not handling the physicality well enough to be able to impose his scoring on the game for a consistent enough stretch. And what I mean by that is like, the double teams, they swallow him up. Guys get physical and under him and they bump him off his spots. When he's able to play his one-on-one game, kind of impossible to guard him because he's got that like high release point, but he also releases it with a fade. He's also got the height and the length. It's hard. It's hard to contest him one-on-one. That's why most teams play 2 guys on him. But a lot of times when guys are, when defenses are thrown like that, there's still that separating factor. I watched the Pistons play Shea last night, with OKC, and Shea was awesome. The rest of OKC wasn't so great. A little bit of Chet Holmgren, actually. Chet was pretty good too, but Shea was awesome. And the reason Shea was awesome is because even with all the physicality and all the pressure and all the things you saw the Pistons do tonight, they did it probably even better last night when they had more energy. But Shea had that separating factor. He'll split a double team. He'll shoot over a double team. He'll like work his way to the baseline. He'll draw the fouls. Like all that stuff was just, and of course he has like just better shot making across the board, like better in the mid range, better from 3 and all that kind of stuff. But like that extra little burst, and you saw for like one flash in this game where Brandon was able to basically spin, turn, and then just go in for a dunk. And you're like, wow, Brandon's very athletic. In fact, if you actually watch some of like the younger Brandon Ingram from the Pelicans, maybe before a couple of injuries and stuff like that, like Brandon was very athletic, quick twitch, getting to the basket, dunking the ball, finishing strong at the basket. It just feels like there's certain games where he just looks, and I know he takes his time and he plays at his own pace, and that's his style. But there's certain times where he's just like too slow to get past his man, and he's getting bumped and the physicality, and that's where teams can start playing the percentages against him. Yes, Brandon's probably going to score 20, but it's like, is it going to be 20 like tonight, 22 with 0 assists and shooting 50%? Okay, we'll live with that. You know what I mean? And I think that's the hard part is like, if you want to play this style and be a scorer, no problem with that. But the efficiency, and not just the efficiency, but also how much you can force the issue and refuse to be denied. Like even Kawhi gets it done with strength. We saw Zion recently. Zion gets it done with like quick twitch athleticism and his ability to just hang in the air and his absurdly long arms. Like there's all sorts of different ways scorers are able to impose themselves. Brandon doesn't impose himself nearly enough for long enough stretches. And I'm not, for people who I guess, you know, this has become a bit of a thing I notice online. It's like people are like, oh, we're team Brandon, we're team Scottie. First off, you guys are all team Raptors, and if you're not, then I don't want to hear from you, because that's all this team game's about. It's about how the Raptors can win. It's not about your little player agendas. But for that, I think people are like, well, what about Scottie only had 5 points, or what about like, you know, RJ, or whatever issues you want to point to, Jamal, whatever. The difficult thing is Brandon's role on the team is to score, and how much he can score over and over again despite whatever the defense does is the measure of his effectiveness as a player. And there's a lot of times I just feel like, I don't know, he maybe looks tired. Of course, he played a lot of minutes too. He's played a lot of games this season. I salute him. He just came off of like missing a couple games here. So like, say whatever you want, but ultimately a higher level is necessary. That's all. BI would have been a great fit 5 to 10 years ago. Sure. I think he's a great fit now too. Like, don't get me wrong. Brandon plays great like most of the time. You know, so I don't know. Like, it's not all or nothing. Like, if I critique a player about something, I'm trying to come at it from like a balanced perspective. Like, I've watched a big body of their work. In this case, I've watched his entire season with the Raptors. In the context in which the Raptors play, you notice some trends about when Brandon's able to, you know, play well, when he's not able to play well. Ironically, Ingram plays like DeRozan, which may have worked with those lineups, but I don't get the fit with this squad. We'll see what they do in the offseason with this roster. Yeah, I'm not one of those people that's like in favor of getting rid of Brandon. If anything, like, I want to add more scoring and more shooting and more playmaking to this lineup. I'm not trying to go the other direction. I know a lot of people are like, I know he's not a very advanced stats favorable guy. I mean, mostly shoots in the mid-range and, you know, doesn't contribute much in playmaking and defense. I think contextually he's actually quite important to this team. Ingram's shot diet is a major issue for this team. But the thing is, look, it's for what the Raptors need him to do, they need him to soak up the hardest stuff, because then the rest of the guys can get the easier stuff. Now, granted, if he was a better playmaker, there's more easier stuff for other guys to get to versus the hard diet that he has. And maybe that's a bigger issue. But, like, I don't know. This is not an uncommon problem for, like, most teams, to be fair. Like, the star player has to subsist on double team shots, really tough coverages, the physicality, all this kind of stuff. Like, you can't just compare the efficiency of the top guy versus like a guy who's getting single covered. In fact, a guy who's getting double teamed and still putting up, let's say, 50% shooting is way more valuable to me than a guy playing single coverage and shooting 55%. You know what I mean? So it's, yeah, I don't know. I also think that like not having IQ is actually kind of hurting him right now, because the way BI wants to play, like, he wants to sort of like, you know, get in the elbow, get in the mid range, sort of take his time. If the defender comes, you know, to him, he's able to, the easiest pass that he makes on a more consistent basis is the one directly on the kick out. And Jamal has just not been a catch and shoot guy at all. I mean, you look at it today, he was struggling as well. And I think IQ has been the guy who's been probably the most, it's either between IQ or RJ are the ones that profit the most from that direct kick out. Yeah, BI got to do better on defense too. Yeah, I agree. The defensive part was not great today. That's one of my bigger issues. Player with the least minutes equals largest plus minus plus 50. Okay, yeah. I mean, he was on the floor for a good run. It's true. Well, do I think it's more likely that AJ gets converted to a standard deal or signed full to the rest of the season for extra ball handling? I mean, look, the way Fultz has looked, I don't really see how he's even an upgrade on Jamal at the given moment, especially considering you've ridden with Jamal the whole time. I don't really see a need for game again 3 weeks before the postseason starts to change up your rotation that dramatically. Like Jamal is a pretty big piece of the rotation, right? So I know it's hard to say just stick with it. He's struggling, stick with it. He's struggling, but you kind of have to dance with a girl that you brought, that brought you here, right? And that's Jamal, right? You gotta. we're just kind of like we have to put our trust in this because the ulterior option right now with Markel, it's just he hasn't really. It's hard. Admittedly, it's hard to sort of catch on to a team midway here. But he has not been a separating factor. If I just had to sign somebody to win a game for a 1-game play-in or even a playoff setting, if I had to put a guy in, I think AJ is actually more useful. So yes, I guess I would. Full split with no urgency is he in his head a lot? I don't know. I haven't watched that much Markelle Fultz of late. Obviously, a lot of the interest came off once he didn't really get off to the type of career he wanted to. But I think there is like a languid silkiness to his game, but like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not qualified, and I don't think you are either in terms of just reading into his mindset, especially considering we've only seen him play like maybe 30 minutes total of basketball as a Raptor. Shed is not a player that will give us success in the future. Having zero offensive game hurts the lineup so much. That's the thing. It's like Jamal kind of has to like constantly make the in-between winning plays, but the reason for that is because he can't necessarily do the basic things, which are like catch and shoot threes, like, driving to the basket, finishing. Like, I think the good stuff that Jamal does have a positive impact on the team. I think that's been shown many times. Even though he's had a really tough month, I think it's still fair to say that like his ability to get a quick crossover, get into lane, touch the paint, spread it out. A lot of guys on this team can't touch the paint off a live dribble. That's a bit of an issue. I think his when he's flying around on the defensive end, that has a nice impact. When his passes are connecting, those have nice impacts on the guys off the bench. Like, he's a good playmaker. But he kind of has to like constantly make these like energy plays over and over again. And because he can't do, again, the basic stuff, it actually would be much easier to just hit catch and shoot threes. He'd be more efficient. And, to be honest, there probably wouldn't be that much argument on the team, but you need 3-point shooting from the point guard position. Like, it's just absolutely vital, Like, if you're looking at a Pistons perspective, it was relatively easy to guard the Raptors tonight. Send a double team by Brandon, live with whatever RJ's doing. Go under on Jamal, go under on Scottie. What are you guys really going to do, So, winnable game, but I can't say it was a super terrible game. No, it was a brick fest at the start. I mean, the Pistons were also bricking too, but yeah, it was hard fought. It was entertaining. I mean, I don't know. It was entertaining because I also had the Jays on in the other screen, so I was like, all right, whatever. Like, okay, we're down 20. It is what it is. I'll look up online. So, I'm surprised Will isn't crashing out because I sure am. I mean, I crash out on the games I feel like it deserves to be crashed out. Like when they no-showed against the Rockets and Pelicans, like, yeah, those are crash outs, When they lose every fourth quarter lead, it gets annoying to a certain point, you crash out. But realistically, I think the Raptors aren't at the Pistons level. And I think a couple games ago, I really did come to the conclusion, finally, that the Raps are kind of just mid. And so when they play mid, it is what it is. Their centers were combined 17 of 19. Really bad rim protection this one. Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I was really surprised at how poorly Jakob played. Duran just took it to Jakob over and over again. Jakob also only got one defensive. Like, look at the defensive rebounding from the starters who are the tallest players. Scottie with 1 rebound, Brandon Ingram with 1 rebound, Jakob Poeltl with 1 defensive rebound. Like, you telling me your whole starting front court got you 3 defensive rebounds? Like, that's actually crazy. But yeah, Jalen Duran has been a bad matchup for Jakob ever since I think Duran was like a rookie or a sophomore. Duran had like a 2020 game against Yak early on. I mean, Duran, the physicality, he takes that first bump. He has a little crossover game. It's not like a bag necessarily, like especially in the era when we have like Jokic and Embiid, even Şengün. Like, he's not that level of skilled at all, but he has a bit of ball handling. And then the physicality to put the chest into you. He's very strong. He's currently stronger than Jakob. And it just like, yeah, I don't know. He was also outrunning Jakob. Like, it's just a bad game. I mean, last time one of the big reasons the Raptors beat the Pistons earlier on was because Jakob outplayed Duran for once. Duran snatched that chain right back. So yeah, it was tough. We need a big man like Duran. Yeah, I don't know. If we had Duran, he'd be the best center the Raptors would have in franchise history. I'm not even kidding. Like, he's better than old Marc Gasol. He's better than Serge. He's better than JV. Who were our centers before that? You know, Andrea. He's better than Andrea. Better than, I don't know. I guess I didn't watch enough Oak and AD, and maybe Camby. But yeah, Duran's very good, man. Duran's very good. It's just like not better than Barks. Come on, dog. You don't believe that either. I got $5 here. Will, my brother, I think there's a playstyle clash between Scottie and BI. They both provide different things. Duran outplayed Yak. That's the game. Yeah, I mean, there is a bit of a playstyle clash between the two of them. I think it's interesting because it's like, how do I say this? The last thing I want to see creep back into this fan base is this stupid like player versus player war that kind of ripped the team apart for the previous iteration of the team. The whole inane arguments of whose team is it, like, dog, it's not productive. It's literally all of your teams. It's on you guys to figure out how to make this thing work. I do think that, like, stylistically, there is a bit of a clash. Obviously, Scottie wants to play fast, up and down, really aggressive on defense, you know, share the ball, but he's not particularly, like, effective at scoring. I mean, if I want to critique Brandon for not being able to impose his game on the scoring end, Scottie has single-digit games all the time. So, like, it's not even close when you're talking about levels of scoring between the two guys. I think what's best is that they can cover for a bit of each other's weaknesses. You know, I think when the game's up and down, Brandon or Scottie's gonna be way better at that type of game. When the game slows down, I think BI is gonna help. And I think that the best thing to do is the best place you have is like if your 2 star players can mesh off of each other, right? You think about the best 2-man combos in the league, right? It's like, you know, Jamal Murray with Nikola Jokic. Like, wow, what a fantastic combination to play off of. Even the Lakers right now, like LeBron, Austin Reeves, and Luka playing off of each other. Fantastic stuff. When you're thinking about even the Pistons, you know, Cade and Jalen Duran, like they're typically amazing together. You know, there's like kind of no plays that happen between Scottie and Brandon. They kind of occur in their own silos. And that's fine, but they don't amplify each other. They kind of cover for each other's, so they raise each other's floor rather than raise each other's ceilings, if you know what I mean, right? So yeah, Steph and Draymond, that's a great example. Darko's ability to adjust on the fly has been worried. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think there were maybe moments in this game that they could have gotten to better stuff. They also called so many timeouts that basically the Raptors like couldn't stop anything that was happening in the third quarter because they were down to 3 timeouts so early on. I guess you could call another timeout earlier than that, but like, I don't know. It's just, look, the Pistons played a really good game and they are a better team than the Raptors, but I also thought that like if you saw how much you wanted to switch to contain the Pistons and the Pistons were beating you with the passes over the top or they're beating you with the rotation and they were forced, you know, you were bad in rotation and, you know, you said the double team stuff, then you should have gone bigger across the board, you know? So, whatever. It's always easy to say this stuff in hindsight. When IQ gets back, run BI IQ Lannis when we need to play slower and get better looks in the half court. Run Scottie RJ Lannis with shooters around them when they want to play fast. Yeah, I don't mind that. That's fine. But again, you're still kind of dealing with the same thing, right? The guys don't add to each other. They cover for each other. Ideally, they amplify each other, but, you know, I don't particularly think they do that much. Passing only PGs no longer work in the modern NBA. That's why most are now combo guards, need that shooting. Yeah, I mean, off the dribble playmaking and shooting and just the ability to pressure. I mean, again, like we're seeing again, all due respect to Daniss Jenkins, he was awesome tonight, 21 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. But like, that's a very average on-ball playmaker in the NBA nowadays. The fact is the Raptors have very limited skill set of that. Jamal can't do it. Jacoby can't do it. IQ, honestly, mostly can't do it to that kind of degree. RJ mostly can't do it to that degree. Scottie can't necessarily do it consistently enough. And then BI can't do it consistently enough. Like, that ability to, like, pressure the defense, puncture it, probe, but get a shot off onto the basket, on the mid-range, on the 3 as well. I don't know. Like, and teams have multiples of these guys. Like, again, you look at the Celtics. I mean, the Celtics bring Peyton Pritchard off the bench now because Tatum's back. And it's like, dude, Peyton Pritchard would be the best on-ball critter on the Raptors. And he's just their bench guy, you know? So, yeah, it is a skill set that the Raptors, I would say, have undervalued. And that's a team construction issue. You know, I genuinely feel that. So before we take the next question, I can sense that it's getting a little heated. It's also getting a little hot in Toronto, you know what I mean? The weather's been good recently, minus all the rain. But yeah, basketball can be stressful, you know? You play the Pistons, it's going to be stressful. But Coors is the chill choice, and staying chill is always the winning play here. You already know that deal. You put the Coors in the fridge, you wait for the mountains to turn blue, which will tell you that the beer is as cold and as refreshing as the Rockies themselves. So when that game heats up, why not make the chill choice by grabbing a crisp, refreshing Coors Light? Find Coors Light near you. Visit CoorsLightShop.ca. Celebrate responsibly, and you must be of legal drinking age. All right, let's get back to more questions. Stewart didn't play and still couldn't match the physicality. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's he's the big boss when it comes to the physicality for them, for sure. Yeah. Look, man, we don't have that element in our game. We just don't. Omer sends in $5. BI will be needed in the playoffs as the game slow down. RJ's needed to attack the rim, and Scottie can play an all-around game. All 3 are needed. I agree. Like, this is why it frustrates me so much, because pretty much after every loss, but definitely even after some wins, there's just so much player siloing and like Scottie fans pointing at BI fans pointing at Scottie. I guess no one's really on RJ's camp. Poor RJ, but like, you know, everyone pointing at RJ. It's just this little bit of like agenda infighting just kind of sucks, man. Like, we're all Raptor fans, you know what I mean? And I obviously understand that people have different opinions over how the team should play and they have different solutions for it, but it always just rubs me such the wrong way that when people like put down other players because they feel like they've taken away from their favorite player on the team. Like, it feels like just parents like yelling at each other at like a kid's basketball game. It's like just I don't know. Anyway. It's just, it isn't. I agree. You need all 3 guys. All 3 guys bring something to the table. Let's top Tempo Masai. Yeah, I mean, exciting news. The Tempo just continue to add big hitters. I mean, honestly, you can make the argument that the Tempo actually have a much, much bigger list of names attached to the organization than even the Raptors do at the moment. I mean, Serena Williams joining the team. That was announced a couple months ago. You know, now Masai, of course. I mean, Masai joining the team is very impressive. Now, he's joined as a principal owner. So him and Larry have an incredible relationship. I remember Larry basically said many times, like, I look at Masai like a son, you know? So certainly those 2 guys were really close. They had a great working relationship when Larry was the kind of the controlling owner of the Raptors. And you know, he basically gave Masai like carte blanche to do kind of whatever. He also really supported Masai's charitable works, obviously with Chance of Africa and the other many things that Masai's doing. I think he's probably expanded that even more now. But the announcement was made today that Masai's also joining the Tempo. You know, he's not going to be the GM or anything. Obviously, that's still Teresa Resch, and they still have Monica Wright Rogers as the sort of front office with the president and GM positions, and they got Sandy Brondello as well. So like they're covered leadership wise, but even having Masai as a mentor, who, you know, Teresa obviously worked under Masai, you know, it was basically Masai at the top, and then Bobby, Dan Tolzman, and Teresa. Like that was kind of like the big 4. You know, so there's that built-in connection there as well. But more than anything else, I think Masai's love affair with Toronto in particular, I think Masai also, it's not even just about what he does as like a basketball decision maker, but it's also about like as a leader, what does he represent? And if you've ever watched any of Masai's documentaries or gotten to hear him speak, and he's an inspirational human being. I think everyone kind of knows that, but the way that he has always advocated for women's basketball equality, for women's to access sports across the board. If you watched his work with GOA, one thing that he teaches the campers every single time is just to, on a basic level, respect women, which I think that in the type of places that Masai is going into, that is a message that it resounds and is more profound than it would be here, let's say, where that is maybe more societally of a given. And I think that Masai being an advocate for women's basketball is a very natural thing for Masai to do. So that, also his ongoing love affair with the city of Toronto, where his kids were born. I mean, they no longer live here now because Masai no longer lives here and his family doesn't live here anymore, but he's a huge love and connection to this city in particular. And yeah, I don't know. I will just always be rooting for Masai no matter where he goes. And I trust as a human being, that type of leadership is hard to replace. You can quibble with the moves that he made, all this other stuff. I would never, ever once entertain any quibbles with Masai as a human being. It is just it's bigger than sports. Very few people are bigger than sports. Masai is bigger than sports, man. Any thoughts on MLSE firing the Leafs GM? Pele gave a press conference too. Nah, man, I to be honest, I didn't really care too much about it. But yeah, I mean, again, yeah. Definitely, you will not catch me speaking on those glowing terms about Keith Pele as MLSE president as compared to what I just said about Masai. But yeah, it just the Leafs kind of suck, and they're gonna pivot into the rebuild, I think, and they let go of their GM. It's the most normal thing. I think, honestly, if the Raptors didn't have the type of year they had right now, and I know it's not perfect, but it's still pretty good. I do wonder what would have happened with Bobby as well. Kind of felt like Keith was kind of like, all right, I'll give you guys like a year. Let's see how it goes, And I think Bobby will come out of this, intact. And obviously on the Leafs end, they did not come out of it intact. So maybe this sounds like a broken record, but do you think the Raptors make the top 6? Teams like Atlanta, Philadelphia, Charlotte, all hitting their stride right now, looking too good for us. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a broken record. I think this is the question on everyone's minds, right? Everyone's doing the standings watch. I think even the players admitted to sort of looking at the standings as well. Today's result drops the Raptors behind the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks, the Hawks beat the Celtics last night, which very impressive. I mean, the Celtics didn't have Tatum and Kata, so it's a big part of their front court. But still, the Hawks beating the Celtics was very important and very impressive. Now they're a half game ahead of the Raptors. They're tied in the loss column, so I think that's what I'm looking at first and foremost. But Philadelphia is only one game behind Toronto, Orlando, and then Miami and Charlotte as well. I think, the Raptors beating the Magic was very huge in terms of just maintaining that gap. The Raptors are 2 up on the Magic, and effectively they're 3 up because they also got the tiebreaker. But we'll see. I mean, the Raptors play Miami twice in a row soon. They need to win at least one of those, ideally both. And more importantly, the Raptors need to take care of business against these really terrible teams that are coming in, like Sacramento. I know it's a back-to-back, but the Raptors need to win that one. Raptors need to win against Brooklyn, and they need to win against Memphis. They need those 3 gimme wins, and then hopefully they take 1, if not 2 more of their tough games, because they also play Miami twice, New York, and Boston. And I do not expect them to ever beat New York and Boston. Which, by the way, you might say, well, Will, what's the point of saying that? Because the Raptors are most likely going to play either the Knicks or the Cavs in that 3-6 matchup, or even the 4-5 matchup. Well, if you wanted the top 6, you have to face the top 6 opponents. So there you go. Do we really want Cleveland? Because I'm leaning towards the Knicks for a playoff matchup. Guys, you can lean towards whatever you want. I'm here to tell you the Raptors are 0-12 against the Knicks in their last 12 matchups. Raptors may go 0-5 against the Knicks this season alone. The Knicks dominate us in every single way. Cat dominates us. Josh Hart dominates us. OG dominates us. Jalen Brunson dominates us. Mikal Bridges has had games where he's dominated us. Deuce McBride has come off the bench and dominated the Raptors. Landry Shamet dominates the Raptors. I do not want the Knicks. I'm sorry. The Raptors match up so badly with the Knicks. So Jacoby fouled out, 11-point game, and Darko decides to put Grady in instead of a starter. The game was over. Whatever. I can't be that mad. This team is fine, to good, but not great. The progress from last year, but changes are needed in the offseason and not just marginal stuff. Starters need a shakeup. I agree. I think like I would love to upgrade the backcourt, man. Love to upgrade the backcourt. Thoughts on Jaden Ivey being waived? I mean, honestly, my thoughts are just like, this is clearly a person in distress at the moment, and I don't know. Look, the NBA doesn't have a duty of care necessarily, especially now that he's waived and no longer in the NBA. But I just hope that somebody's caring for this guy. Like, he's just clearly not in a good place. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to comment on the religious aspect. I'm not religious, and definitely I'm not informed enough. Just even about various religion and sort of how much people believe, and faith is a concept to me that is something I'm quite distant from, and it's not a part of my life. So I'm not going to cast judgment. I just feel like there has to be a level of sympathy with this, and I just feel like most people are just kind of gawking at somebody doing absurd and irrational things on a public scale that's very destructive to their life, and that's the part that's really sad. And I see people talking about in terms of like, maybe we bred him in and, get him right or whatever. And I'm just like, that's not a basketball thing. This is like a human being empathy thing. A human being is tearing their entire lives up. And I don't know. We're just watching it as part of entertainment. It's not I don't know. And for people to make it into like political theater or religious theater or whatever you want to call it, I found that to be kind of disgusting too, to be honest. But whatever, that's a separate thing. Yeah. So anyway, I personally, I really don't want to answer more questions about this particular topic about Ivy. It has nothing to do with me or the Raptors, and I want to leave it with a respectful tone. CMB was a beast on defense, which everyone played as hard as him. Yeah, but I also think that honestly part of it is just like it's his ability, right? It's his mentality. He's got the energy as well to do it. Obviously, he's coming back from a couple games off. But to be 6'6" and that strong with long arms and able to jump and quick feet, he's blessed with like pretty much every defensive tool you would really want. Yeah. CMB's ever on defense. 7 offensive rebounds. Again, he had 4 of them on the same play, which I thought was kind of funny. Kind of pissed that Grady came instead of Scottie. I don't care how slim the odds were. We had the momentum. Yeah, we also play back-to-back tomorrow. I don't know. I don't think we're beating the Pistons. Really like RJ today. Deserved his flowers for at least trying to combat Detroit's physicality. Yeah, this is why I was always like... I think that there's like a physical toughness with offense, and I think the Pistons actually have a ton of that. Despite the fact that they don't necessarily have a lot of physical, they don't have a lot of like necessarily talent. Like when you read the names, it doesn't really jump off the page. But when I'm talking about like physical toughness for like a toughness on an offensive end is like how even if it's the shots contested, like Duncan Robinson is still rising up and shooting that shot, or Kevin Huerter is still rising up and shooting that shot. They're able to sprint into their actions and then stop on a dime and then shoot and get in an upright position. They're able to hold their position when they're getting fronted, keep a guy in front, catch the pass over the top, and then finish at the basket. They're able to play through contact. They have the mentality to not stop playing or to, tail off if calls don't go their way. They just maintain the same approach consistently. When they're in the paint, how much are they able to finish through physicality? If a guy's pressuring you, how much are you still willing to dribble the basketball and get to the spot that you want to get to? Pistons have a ton of that, and I feel like the Raps really struggle with a lot of it. So, but RJ does have a lot of that, and he has a level of stubbornness that I think is very, very necessary to be an effective offensive player. So, some points of concern, though. Jacoby still plays dumb on defense. BI's form is in the gutter. Scottie struggling against good teams. Yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot of that today, right? So, where is Malik Beasley? Can the Raptors sign him? Isn't he still under investigation? I mean, there's a reason why nobody in the NBA signed him, right? So, yes, he would work. But, again, Welcome. Please organize a Temple expansion draft watch party for Friday. We'll see what we can do. We'll definitely see what we can do. The Raptors are also playing Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm doing a show that day regardless. We're also doing Banter Pod that day. Yeah, what time is the expansion draft? The thing with the expansion draft, this is all very new to me in terms of just like, I don't know what like value I would potentially add something like this. Like I know most of the stars in the WNBA, but like when you're talking about expansion draft, it's like I've looked at like, okay, what potential players the team can get. Like I don't have valuable commentary to offer, and I know Alex doesn't have it either about any of that. We can probably get a guest to talk about it, but more than anything else, I think it's just like, I don't know. Like, quite frankly, I'm not an expert on all things. You know, I think I'll be pretty willing to, like, it's an expansion draft. Like, you know what I mean? You're gonna get like 6th and 7th people in the rotation. So, Angel Reese would be nice. I mean, yeah, she's not gonna be available in the expansion draft. What are we doing? Like, no, man. It's you're gonna get players that the most people don't know. You know, and that's where you need an expert to actually comment on this. RJ's mentality is the most consistent on this team. Yeah, but I will have to say though, his play isn't the most consistent either, so it's hard for him to set the tone. But again, when RJ plays well, I really, really respect it. So terrible rotations. Okay, let's move on. Don't need to spend more of the time on the Raps tonight. Flip the page for Jay's corner time. All right, let's do Jay's corner time. Let's go. All right. By the way, the only thing I want to say about the tempo is like, in the expansion draft is like interesting. I did see that Bridger Carlton, maybe, I talked a little bit about that possibility of that with Chelsea. It'd be exciting. I think there's gonna be a real draw for most of the Canadians to come home. I know Letitia, Bridget, Kia. I know Kia's gone through injuries and stuff like that, but it would still be cool for her to play on the tempo, regardless of sort of whatever state that she's in. Kind of worst case scenario, it's kind of like Jamal McGlure on the Raps kind of thing. But yeah, I think there'll be kind of an excitement on level on all of those, and whether they join as free agents or part of the expansion draft, it'll be kind of interesting. But anyway, hold on, Krem. I still gotta pay the bills. Okay, I'll let you guys know that in this next segment, before we get to Jay's talk, this next segment is a presentation of ToonieBet Online Sportsbook and Casino. Thousands of slot games and live casino at your fingertips, and a sportsbook made for Ontario. Get your game on with ToonieBet. So, looking across the association, and tomorrow there's an interesting game between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. Woo! That's going to be heat, man. I mean, look, the Raptors kind of own their own destiny against Miami because they have 2 more games remaining against Miami. They can basically, keep the Heat down and keep themselves in the top 6, or if they lose those games, they'll probably swap places with Miami. So, but nevertheless, if the Celtics can do us a little favor, because the Celtics already lost against the Hawks, okay, that was annoying. But if they can do us a favor and please beat the Miami Heat for us tomorrow, that'd be great. They're only minus 3.5 point favorites. We'll see if Tatum plays. We'll see if Kata plays. They had a couple guys out recently, but Jaylen Brown, I know you want to chase that MVP season. And the Heat and the Celtics typically play great games. So I'll keep an eye on that one tomorrow as well. But for me, I'm going to take the Celtics, unfortunately. It is what it is. The enemy of your enemy is your friend, and that means the Celtics are my friend tomorrow. So make sure you hit up ToonieBet.com for all your sports betting activities. ToonieBet is licensed and regulated by the AGCO and iGaming Ontario, 18 plus Ontario only. Please play responsibly. Of course, we also have to hand out the 3 stars from tonight as well. So the first star is going to go to, I don't know, man. Okay, let's go with CMB is the first star. Sandro's the second star. AJ Lawson's the third star. 3 guys off the bench all made good positive contributions. Your Gerald Henderson Award for who torched the Raps really should be Duncan Robinson, but I think I'll probably give it to Daniss Jenkins. That guy is, I don't know. He was just very good tonight, man. 21-5-5 for Jenkins. So it's time now for Jay's Corner, and Karem is ready to go. Karem is so eager. This guy's popped in. First off, Karem, once again, congratulations. You got to unmute your mic, but congratulations on Turkey making it to the World Cup. Can we get your first reaction?
Very happy. I was watching the game with my Italian friends. We had the Italian game up on the TV. I had it on my laptop, Turkey. And let's just say it went 2 completely different ways. Obviously, my friends were devastated, but I was in an amazing mood. Haven't made the World Cup since 2002. So, I mean, that's when I was born in 2001. So basically since I was born. Crazy
Damn.
accomplishment. And yeah, Çalhanoğlu was saying he's super excited. This is a dream come true. Turkish
Mm,
players were dancing in the locker room. The energy is high and the group looks easy. So hopefully we can come out of the group stage as well. I'm really excited for June.
wow. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie. The World Cup fever is getting real because
it
I
is.
was down at Scotiabank today with Jerome and Alex, and we were like in line basically for a hot dog, and the hot dog vendor had the game on his phone, and it was propped up against like basically like he was there on his phone, and so we basically like just like, well, hold on, like is that Italy in the shootout? So like we legit just stopped in line with the hot dog guy, and then eventually everyone just kept piling in. So they eventually became like a group of 10 of us, just crowded around a phone, watching Italy sky those penalties, and watching Bosnia advance. But like that's gonna be World Cup fever. That's gonna be the vibe all summer. It's gonna be people stopping in window fronts in Toronto, stopping at bars, obviously watching the games at BMO itself, all across Canada, you know, in Montreal and Vancouver as well. Yeah, man, World Cup's the biggest event in the world, man, bigger than the
I'm very,
Olympics. So
very excited.
congratulations to Turkey, man, or Turkey.
Thank you. Very excited about that. But even in 2022, when it was in Qatar, I mean, Toronto,
Oh,
Montreal, the
great World
bars were
Cup.
full during the days. Like
Of
it's just
course.
going to be that times 10 now that it's at home, you know. So very excited. Unfortunately, Turkey don't play in Toronto, so I won't be able to go to the games. They're in Vancouver, San Fran, and LA because they face America, the US. So unfortunately, won't be able to attend. But I'm still trying to look for some World Cup tickets. Everything's super expensive, but Canada
Oh
game
man,
would be cool. Obviously, that's going to be the most expensive one. But
yeah,
I was thinking, like,
that's gonna be tough.
are you going to go to any games yet, or do you know, or you're still waiting on it?
I don't know if I want to pay that much money, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be
If I
insane.
if I didn't pay $2,000 to watch the Jays in the World Series, I don't know if I'll pay $6,000 to watch, you know, Senegal versus, even though Senegal's a
Very,
great team. Shouts to Senegal,
very fair.
the rightful champions. Okay, all right. Sorry, come on, man. What did the
Look,
CAF even say with like, oh, actually Morocco won? Like, no, man.
that's been
Well,
so
watch the game.
confusing,
Okay,
back and forth,
you win the
back
game
and
on the
forth.
pitch. So
Yeah. Oh,
anyway,
that's weird. Anyway, speaking of games, actually, I was at the Jays game today, first game of the
oh, we're
season. My friend
okay.
texted me right after Italy lost. He was like, "I got free Jays tickets tonight. You want to go?" Obviously, it's the
Sick.
Rockies, so it is what it is. But I was like, "Why not?
Hey,
Check it
Rockies played
out."
well.
Yep. Went to the game, got back just in time for the show tonight, and unfortunate, Rob's gonna win today, but let's hope for a bounce back tomorrow as well.
So I've gone to a game this year. I'm actually going to tomorrow's game as well. Tomorrow I'm going to
Nice.
do a doubleheader. So I'm going to do the pod, and then I'm going to go to the Jays game at 1, and then I'm going to
It's at
stick
one.
around in
Right.
downtown and watch the Raptors game.
Ooh,
Raps play the Sacramento Kings
that's
tomorrow.
casual.
So I'll basically be doing the doubleheader tomorrow. But I want to hear your review of, like, because you go to Raptor games, you go to Leafs games.
Yep.
And sorry, you go to and you go to Jays games. Like,
Yep.
talking about the atmosphere of the Jays game as compared to the Raptor game right now.
I mean, last couple of years, the Raptors haven't really had that playoff hype, that
Mm-hmm.
postseason, or no, that end of the year stretch, that excitement. So recent times, it's definitely been Jays, the atmosphere. I mean, I'm sure when you went as well, you saw like the Rogers Center was almost packed today as well. No
Oh yeah.
different.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Looney Dog night. Someone's asking me how many dogs you got in you. I only got 4 because I don't know why. I ate hot dogs earlier in the day, and then my friend invited me to the Jays game. I wasn't expecting to eat
Uh-huh.
hot dogs again, so there I just
Right.
ate hot dogs twice. But yeah, going back to your question, I would definitely say Jay's excitement is much higher right now. But Raptors gonna make the playoffs this year, hopefully. I'm excited
Mm-hmm.
to see what happens this season. Someone asked a question earlier as well. I wanted to pull this
Okay.
up for you. What do you think of this? Because this is I'll leave this to you.
Live watch alongs. Yeah, I think we have plans actually to do one of the games. So okay, on the road games, we're planning to travel. So again, this is assuming the Raptors make like a proper
Mhm.
playoff, and not just a play-in. But we're actually planning to travel. So I don't think that we can do it because we'll just be in wherever, like Cleveland or New York,
Mhm.
for the away games. The home games, that's the opportunity for us to sort of do something. So I'm thinking, especially because the Raptors are going to open on the road, it's probably game 3 or game 4. Most likely, I think at game 4 will be a really good watch party. So we'll put something together. I think
Mhm.
truthfully, there's a bit of a sacrifice on my end, and maybe a little bit less on Alex and Jerome because they do less of the in arena coverage. But like, I can't be in 2 places at once, and I would very much like to be covering the game and directly with
Mhm.
access. But at
Yeah,
the same time, I also really enjoy the live watch experience as well. So
for sure.
we'll host parties and stuff like that together. But
I mean, yeah. Either way, you can get maybe both in, one at the game, one at home. But you guys
yeah,
have never had the opportunity to like, get Alex, Jerome, everyone together, have a live watch along. I'm sure the fans would love to
no,
see that as well.
we've done
Have
that.
you?
I think we actually did that one for the home opener, for the season
Okay.
opener this year.
Okay.
We kind of watched it
Before I was
together.
with
We
you guys.
packed out the bar, kind of thing. So I think we
Very
could
nice.
definitely do that for the postseason, and yeah, especially game 4. That could be the last game of the series, or it could be the turning game in the series. So, yeah, there you go.
Someone's saying Jay's Corner is my opportunity to learn about Jays after that hot postseason. Hey, getting these going
Hey,
again.
yo, jump on the bandwagon, man. Jump on the bandwagon. I mean,
Yeah.
look at the Jays today. I think honestly, what's impressive with the Jays right now is like they're rolling over the identity they picked up last year immediately into this year. Like every one of their runs is like when they put together these nice little runs, they're all kind of the same, right? Like guys work the count, they slap a couple singles, the bases
Mhm.
aren't out loaded. They got 2 runs today. Vladdy walked in a run.
Yep.
Um, I forgot who was behind Vladdy in the order that like also got a single that knocked in another run.
Okamoto got a single, I'm pretty sure as well.
Yeah, yeah. So like they
Yeah.
kind of just like are really good at working the count, not striking out. And
Yeah.
then on the flip side, the Jays starters, and I guess even the relievers are all quite
Starters
good at
have been
striking guys
great.
out.
Yeah.
Bro, look at Scherzer today, man. Scherzer's like
Vintage.
Scherzer's their Garrett Temple, except Garrett Temple is like a
That actually
really solid
plays.
rotation player.
Exactly. Like if Garrett Temple was like Mamu sometimes, like who knows? I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
if
yeah.
that's a good
Like
comparison,
Scherzer, 6 innings tonight, four strikeouts,
Yep.
only 1 earned run.
Unfortunate for Cody Ponche yesterday. Ponche, he fell awkwardly. He had to leave the game early. He's going to be on the
Yeah,
IL for a bit. Now that means
ACL,
Eric
right?
Lauer's roles. Yeah, I think Eric Lauer's role is much more permanent now. Trey
Okay,
Savage should be back in 2 weeks as well, so we're going to fill out the
right.
rotation. But that's exactly why Ross and Mark brought in these guys like Cease. They need that rotational depth. Obviously,
Mhm.
Barrios has been out too, so
Right.
it's good to have these
No,
extra arms.
no, it's definitely a really long year. Also, that's what it was. It was Jesus Sanchez. Learning more about
Yeah,
Jesus Sanchez,
there you
man.
go. He hit second in the lineup. Very nice today.
Yeah, he
Yep,
had a
Slauson
really
a
good game,
single.
and he got the
Yeah,
little walk off
yep,
with Hazel and the
yep.
Gatorade shower. Unfortunately, this time the players did shower Hazel. Okay, please avoid showering Hazel.
Yeah,
It's that moment is about the players, and she tries as much as possible to sidestep them. But that could be a more coordinated effort. Tonight they couldn't really get that done in the right way, and they kind of ruined the mics too, which I thought was kind of funny actually. But yeah, like I don't know. I just I'm happy for these newcomers. I don't
yeah,
even know who these guys are necessarily, but they're contributing right away. Okamoto, Cease,
yeah,
Sanchez,
exactly.
Rogers. I don't think Rogers came in today, but Rogers is kind of nice too. So
Rogers has been great so far. Very steady. Hasn't really made an error. Let's hope it keeps going. But yeah, going back to Jesus Sanchez, he was with the Astros last year. He had a hot
mm,
stretch. I think he was with the Marlins prior to that as well. But he's always been like a power guy, platoon power bat. So
right
hopefully he keeps it up for the Jays. They definitely need him, especially with Santander out. Not too many lefty options. So it's been good.
there you go. Yeah.
Someone's asking this for you.
Will, are you and Alice gonna quote work from the dome this year? Or give us a Rogers Center afternoon pod. You know what? That'd be kind of fun, actually.
That would be
I
cool.
think we'll have to test like how we're gonna do it logistically, but that would be kind of fun. I don't. Yeah, we might have to look into that actually, because okay, so typically I think I mean it's fun to say this, but I think a lot of it is like there's broadcast rights owned by the arena, and there's like exclusivity of like can you actually broadcast from within that building, and obviously Rogers has full exclusivity over all broadcast rights in their building, and it's their team. So I think you'd be kind of like not breaking a law, but like they definitely come after you for something like that. So maybe we do a little IG live. Alex loves doing IG lives. Yo, as a 24-year-old, is it washed to do IG live?
No. I mean, I've never done an
No?
IG live personally, so I can't be the one to speak. But one thing about
Do you
IG
watch
lives,
IG lives?
I don't tend to watch IG lives unless it's like unless there's some really hype thing going on,
Mm,
something mainstream. Probably not. Like again, NBA players shouldn't be going on IG live as well, especially when they're like not in good mental states. Going back to the Jaden Ivey thing, I
yeah,
know you don't want to
yeah,
talk
for
about it,
sure.
but him going live today and then
So
his
sad, man.
girlfriend, and it is really sad to see. I was really high on him coming out of college as well. I thought he was going to be a great combo
Yeah.
guard in this league, but it's very sad how it panned out. Yeah.
Mm.
Someone's asking here. I don't know about if this is true or not, but
Are we not going to mention that Alex appeared on the Jays broadcast in the 9th inning? Did he? Oh, I'll be watching back the 9th inning to spot my man. Okay, we'll bring that to tomorrow's show. Don't worry. Tomorrow on the program, we're gonna go live at 11. We will cover that exact appearance by Alex Wong on the Jays broadcast. But yeah, nice little win by the Jays. Anything else to add?
Someone was saying about, I don't know what this is. Needs Dr.
Oh, Brandon Little needs Dr. Melfi.
Brandon Little's been really poor.
We all need Dr. Melfi, man. Dr. Melfi, a goat.
Two appearances for Brandon Little. It's just been really poor. Obviously, the fan base is mad. They don't want to see him back. But, I mean, Schneider, he's trusting him. He's going to give him a couple more chances at least. But, yeah.
I said this when it was when Grady was struggling too. If your biggest complaint with the team is that the 10th man isn't contributing, you're doing fine. That
is true. This is a good question, actually, Will. Have you ever got this?
What's up? Will, love listening to you do these. Been listening for years. You ever get tired of it? No, not really. I mean, I don't know. I always watch every Raptor game very intently, very into most games. I mean, obviously there's certain games where there's nothing on the line, like when they're up 50 or they're down 50 or whatever. But no, I love doing this, man. It's fun. It's my hobby, man. I was doing this for free before people decided to pay me money for it. So it's great.
Hey, did you start this one?
I did, yeah. Aaron, my friend Aaron, said, "Yo, Will, Aaliyah Edwards." I think this is in reference to all the Canadian players. I'm sure Aaliyah will come back to Toronto eventually. Okay, but she's still too young. I think she's still on a rookie scale contract. They're not gonna let Aaliyah come, like unprotected in the draft like that. But maybe they trade for her. You never know. But her at the Raptor games. I mean, it'll be amazing, and she's a very, very good player. So.
It's actually funny. I do know a little bit about the WNBA because I did WNBA fantasy last 2 years, just like in tiny leagues. But it helped me learn more about the league, and honestly, it's better than I thought, and it's gonna keep growing. So,
no, it's the last like 3-4 years has like grown WNBA in terms of like the star power that's coming into the league, but also just the quality of play. I think that has like really risen as well. Definitely the online coverage and excitement. A lot of that carried over from college. That's one of the things that like like nowadays, like I couldn't really tell you who are the stars in like WNBA or like NCAA like men's games right now. Like I don't know. Like they're all kind of one and dones. It's like, okay, we're watching Kansas for Darren Peterson. We're watching Duke for Boozer. We're watching BYU for like Debanza, and they're all kind of like out early. I'm like, okay, all right, it's not even gonna factor in. You get the rare runs where like Cooper makes it all the way to the final and they lose, whatever. But no, but in the women's game, like they build up so much of a following ahead of time, right? So like everyone already knows who Juju Watkins is, and it's because you have to say 3 years in college at minimum, right? And so when they come out and Caitlin Clark has those runs with Iowa, it's like, all right, well. Now everyone knows exactly what she is, and the anticipation is through the roof. Same thing for Angel Reese, you know what I mean? And that's just going to keep happening like that. So,
it's very true.
Yeah, we'll love to see Aaliyah eventually there.
This is so true.
Fantasy sports helps a lot
with learning
unfamiliar leagues. Other tip I have is I don't know if people play like 2K and stuff, but I end up playing a lot of like WNBA on 2K as well. It's a good way to just like even get to understand people's ratings and stuff and their skill sets. If you're like unfamiliar with like, again, I'm talking about like depth people. I'm not talking about like the stars or even the starters. I'm talking about like who's on bench and what they do and stuff like that. It's all like pretty fun to watch. Also, yeah, big shout out to Agat Makir as well. Elite 8 shout out for South Carolina. She is sick, man. She's coming up. I mean, her and Silas Swords, I think, are probably the two young Canadians that are like going to be the next big stars
for keep an eye out
Team Canada and stuff. But yeah, I mean, Oren Weisfeld and Lieben Osman have had me covered on a lot of the women's game here, and yeah, very, very talented, man.
Yep. Have you ever done any fantasy leagues back in the day, or do you try to keep it away?
I used to play a lot of fantasy baseball and basketball, but yeah. But I thought baseball was actually really fun to play, fantasy baseball. This is like, during the like Bautista and Encarnacion years.
Wow, you're early. That's cool. That's very cool.
No. Fantasy baseball started like the 80s and stuff, man.
Really? I mean, I just use ESPN, so I'm not too familiar with the older ways it went about. But fantasy baseball has been popping off. I've got a good league going as well. 14 people. Everyone knows ball, so it's fun. It's really fun. I'm excited to see what happens. But yeah, do you feel like fantasy sports in general gives you? Whoa, damn! Is this the first intro on Hello and Welcome? I didn't even know you had a cat.
Yeah, I got 3 cats. I didn't realize one of them was in the room in my office right now. So he just kind of popped out at the hour mark. But yeah, that's Rogan.
What's his name?
It's Rogan.
Rogan, very cute.
Yeah.
How old?
Rogan's 9. Yeah.
Cute. Do you give them any Raptors clothing? Pet Raptors clothing?
No, I keep my pets naked, man. They're animals. What kind of question is that, Kareem? But they stay inside, so. All right.
Normally you leave the door closed.
I typically shoo them out before recording, so they don't typically pop up. But he was just hiding under the day.
They love the cat. So. The chat loves the cat.
Rogan's very lovable. Rogan's a very, very lovable cat. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyways,
that's it.
Yep. Rogan's
done too. It's time. It's playtime for the cast now. So, everybody, appreciate you guys for listening. W's in the stream for Rogan and W's in the stream for Krem. And yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Literally, I'll be back for 2 shows tomorrow. See you guys.